uncertainty, we would like to say thank you to all our frontline workers who leave their homes every day so that we can stay safe in ours. We are proud of each and every one of you who go above and beyond to carry out your duties, for keeping us healthy, for keeping us safe. Because of you, we are hopeful for the future. Because of you, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We don't have enough words to express our gratitude for your sacrifices. We can only acknowledge it and say thank you. National Health Mission, Government of Meghalaya.
Hello and good evening to each one of you out there who have joined us once again to this live program today. So on behalf of National Health Mission, Government of Meghalaya, I warmly welcome all of you who have taken your time out for this discussion today. The topic being education, challenges and solutions during COVID-19. Well, we have been talking so much about COVID-19, right, ever since it has begun, and we will not stop doing so till it is there with us. And so we are here once again gathered to talk about it, but completely on a different context, right? We all know that COVID-19, the pandemic, has affected every and each of our lives in some way or the other. And it has touched every stone and every nook of the world almost. And therefore, today we will be speaking on behalf of the students, the teachers, the parents, and to be very precise, we will be talking about the educational scenario, which has been affected significantly since this pandemic has begun. Well, we were all used to buzzing classrooms and buzzing campuses. Today, suddenly, these campuses and classrooms have gone empty, and the whole education system has gone home, has gone online. Well, as soon as we were caught by it, it came as a big shock for us, because we were not really prepared for this kind of a situation where we will be teaching classes and the students will be on the other side of the screen and not in front of us. The physical distancing suddenly became so literal that they were not in front of us. And as educators and as teachers, I think that is one of the saddest moments for many of us, because we as educationists and we as teachers are so used to the students being a part of our campuses, a part of our life, that they not being there actually hit us. And so also the students, because we as teachers are not just teaching them. Well, we all play a much bigger role in their lives too. But then what happened? Well, suddenly our syllabus became online. We had to teach. Initially, there was a whole mess of it because we didn't know how to handle it. The students didn't know how to handle it. Of course, the challenges were many, because network issue is one big problem. I'm sure our panelist is going to talk much more about it. Our institutions also perhaps were not ready to encounter such a situation. And of course, the children especially, and the teachers too, because many of our teachers perhaps were not used to this kind of online teaching. But yet we are doing so. For the last, education has gone the online mode. You can talk about webinars, you can talk about Google Meet, you can talk about Zoom. I mean, these are the apps and the format through which, education is going on right now. It is not easy. Well, today we will be talking about the challenges and also the solutions, because I think our panelist would be telling us that on the hindsight, on the other side, there are some positives also that has come out of it, right? Though the challenges are many though. So we will be talking about it. So all our viewers there who have joined us live, be with us for the next 1 hour, because I'm sure you will not be bored, because we have a very esteemed panelist with us, whole gamut of them here, and very good speakers indeed. And I'm so excited to host this program and to be able to hear and to listen to what they have to say. So without any further ado, let me bring them in one by one for you. First and foremost, let me go ahead and introduce Dr. Glenn Karkungor, the Chancellor of Martin Luther Christian University, Shillong. Thank you very much, Dr. Glenn. We are also being joined by Professor Streamlit Dakar. Yes, Professor Streamlit Dakar is the Dean of Humanities, Northeastern Hill University here in Shillong. Of course, in our panelist list, we also have Professor Monotosh Chakraborty. And Professor Monotosh Chakraborty was the former head of the Department of English and presently the incumbent vice principal of St. Edmund's College, Shillong. We are also very delighted to have in our midst Brother Solomon Morris, who is the principal of St. Edmund's School, Shillong. And of course, the list doesn't end because we have more panelists. We are also being joined by Mr. Tyrone Debras, all the way from Tura. He's the headmaster of Sherwood School in Tura. And last but not the least, we also have a very young teacher with us, and he is Dr. Rusivian Champion, who is the assistant professor, Department of History, Synod College, Shillong. So there you have it, our very esteemed panelists. It looks good on the screen. I'm so happy. A warm round of welcome to each one of you. Thank you so very much for taking your time out and for being a part of this very important and crucial topic that we have taken up today, that is education, challenges and solutions during COVID-19. A warm round of welcome once again to each one of you. Thank you so very much. All right, so without further ado, I would like to take the opening comments from each one of our panelists here. May I begin with Dr. Glenn. Dr. Glenn, tell us, as I said right in the beginning, that the pandemic hasn't been easy for any of us. It has touched every life and every segment, of the society. What has been your experience so far, Dr. Glenn? How have you been able to cope the pandemic up to this moment?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Maushami, and thank you for the introduction. The effects of COVID is a wide canvas. Some of the effects have been broad brushstrokes, some are seen in fine detail, and unfortunately, others' effects are subtle and almost invisible. The most profound effects have been felt by children, the youth, and students, but teachers and institutions have also suffered. Right. And even an old timer like me has had to become tech savvy overnight. In our institution, about 88% of our students have been able to keep up with the classes, assignments, and exams. We have an automated software platform that uploads and keeps tracks of assignments and marks and general progress, but all the students want to come back to the campus. Right. Some of the damage will be overcome, and there will be catch up on some areas that have lagged behind. But in some ways, there are some effects that can never be repaired. There are studies that are showing that children's IQs have been falling because of cognitive stimulation, and the lack of school has contributed to this. 40% of children in Meghalaya are malnourished. They are at even greater risk of learning deficits. And some children, especially rural girls, will never go back to school. Child abuse has risen 30% during the lockdown. Those victims will carry the trauma for life. The mental health of children and teachers have also suffered. Even those who have graduated during the pandemic are having their credentials questioned when they go for job interviews.
Right.
So the effects of the pandemic, I think, will be felt for generations. And that 100 years from now, scholars, economists, and social scientists will be analyzing the long-term consequences of the 2021 pandemic. Just like the baby boomers, the millenniums, later on there'll be talk of the COVID generation.
Absolutely. We will be talking many of those points that you've already raised, Dr. Glenn. Thank you so much for your opening comments. May I just bring in Professor Streamlit Dakar now. Ma'am, you are here with us, yes?
Yes, nice very much.
And nice to see you on screen also. And if you could quickly also tell us, how has the pandemic treated you so far?
Very good evening to each and everyone, Dr. Moshmi and my co-panelist. Of course, when we talk about this pandemic, it has really, changed the education scenario, not only in our state but globally. So technology has forced everyone, every institution, every teacher, every student to rethink the future of learning and education. This current situation, has threatens to expand the educational gap among students. Why I'm saying this? Because as there are numerous families with limited access to such technology or digital learning facilities, both parents and students face a problem of not being able to afford even the required technology and gadgets or devices. This has created a problem of not having access to educational resources, while students learn from home, that further increasing the equity gap.
Right.
So, online education, requires for both teachers and students to be techno savvy. And frankly speaking, veteran teachers may or may not be techno savvy. And if they are not, how will they disseminate, education to the students through online mode? For both, we are not supposed now for both, who are and who are not techno savvies will need high speed internet connections, and only it is the only widespread technology that supports such through devices like smartphones, like notepad, laptop, desktop, and so on. But then in the present COVID pandemic, we need digital capabilities to provide quality education for all students at all levels. So, it is very difficult. In order to maintain appropriate use of technology, we need to pay attention to various aspects of technology. And we really feel, we have seen that students as well as teachers, they feel they have faced a lot of inconveniences. They face a lot of challenges, because when we generally speak about the past 1.5 year, when the when we have seen the global pandemic, we experience that students or teachers, they have faced illness, they have faced
Right.
death in the family
Right.
or the loved ones,
Okay.
and
Okay.
with all these, they had the grief, anxiety, fear, because of this virus threat.
Right. Hold
So
on to your thoughts, ma'am. We will be coming to you once again. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
taking a quick opening comment from each one. We will be speaking about those in much detail as we progress. May I just now bring in Professor Monotosh Chakraborty. Sir, how has the pandemic treated you? How have you
Uh,
been up to this moment, up to this far?
okay. Thank you, Maushami, for giving me this chance to speak here. Good evening, my co-panelists. Uh, how has the pandemic treated me? If you
Yes.
if you look at a direct response to this particular question, I would say I was lucky. I just missed the online classes by a whisker.
Right.
I retired from my teaching assignments in 2020, May 2020, and even though we are in the middle of the pandemic, we're in the middle of the lockdown. I could feel, I could sense how difficult, how stressful it was for many of my colleagues. Moshumi had just mentioned that, particularly for in her initial remarks, she has mentioned that for the senior teachers, it was a big challenge. And I saw them complain about the kind of difficulty tackling a session of online classes compared to their experiences of virtual real classroom situation, face-to-face
Right.
classroom
Right.
situations. So my I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I don't have to teach But then,
Right.
A quick look at what has happened. Number one, a lot of people, including me now, have taken up to technology in a big way.
Right.
And we can sit and communicate with people with a few buttons in our
Clicks of
computer, in our
buttons.
laptop,
Right.
or in our mobile phone even. So we can do all that. But if
Mhm.
we look at a bleaker picture and what has happened, we don't want to bother about the statistics and data presented by certain researchers. 32 crore students have been denied
Affected.
curriculum
Mhm.
based education. Another
Mhm.
10 crore will be falling below the general proficiency level, and stuff like that. I don't want to look at such bleak picture. I want to look at a future where probably governments and private parties will come together and
Mhm.
equip the educational institutions and
Right.
educational administrators. We can see Brother Solomon here, Dr.
Right.
Glenn here, the real educational administrators. They can take a lead and equip themselves, their institutions, to tackle the future problem. Dr. Glenn briefly mentioned, generational impact. Well, that will be a catastrophe. We all understand that. We just hope that this doesn't happen, and
Doesn't happen.
we
Exactly.
learn from this,
Mm.
and in
Mm.
future probably we can tackle these things
Right. I'm so
better,
glad.
if at
Yeah,
all.
I'm so glad, Professor, that you're trying to bring in the positive thing, impact of
Yeah,
this in educational institutions also. Of course, challenges are very many. We will be talking about it. Let me just
yeah,
quickly bring in Brother Solomon Morris also. Brother, pleasure to find you here online on the other side. The way we are right now, we have been pushed to this scenario, but it's a pleasure to have you too in this program of ours. Tell us, brother, how has the COVID pandemic, affected, which are the areas you feel that it has impacted the most?
Okay. So good evening, Moshmi ma'am, and good evening to you, fellow panelists. You know, for me, it's two challenges. Personally, personally, for me, it's the brevity of life. Uh, when I see so many people dying, it makes me reflect. What is my life all about? And the deaths are just numbers. People dying just numbers. Suddenly you hear children saying, I lost my father, I lost my grandfather, my grandmother. So I begin to look at myself and say, what is my life about? So that is my first challenge. Like, why am I doing things? Where is it going? So that is my first. The second challenge as an administrator, as a principal, how do I take my parents, children, and staff? How do I take them through this crisis? How do I bring them all on board? And I'm still struggling, and we are moving together. That's it.
Right.
So these are the two
Exactly.
challenges.
Right, right, exactly. Thank you so much for your opening comments, brother. And may I now bring in Mr. Tyrone D. Brass also? Mr. Tyrone, are you there? Yes, of course.
Yes,
You are the representative from Garo Hills, and we are so glad to have you. Tell us the Garo Hills scene, and especially from your school perspective. How has this pandemic affected? You're an administrator too. How has that affected your school and you as well? Quickly.
good evening, Dr. Day, and all the panelists as well. Good evening. I'm so happy to be here. Well, the issues that Dr. Dr. Glenn raised this evening cannot be brushed aside by any stroke of luck. We have to live with it, and these are very serious serious issues that need to be addressed. All right. Now, talking about Garo Hills, we here in Garo Hills, we have our physical problems with connectivity, with
Hmm.
electricity,
Right.
and if you had looked at the metrics this year, the worst results came from Garo Hills. So that will tell you the pandemic is going to push us back even further. All right? And when we had regular school, children would be going to school and getting their midday meal. Now that is stopped.
Yeah.
And you have poor nutrition, you're going to have, that's going to affect your brains as well. So Garo Hills is really taking a beating with the COVID. Maybe our numbers are down, but people are suffering. Children are suffering the most. Their mental health. Now that we have school from class 6 onwards, some children are reluctant to come to school. They have just, they're kind of not interested because it's affected their mental health. And I visited their homes and coaxing them come back to school. There's a few of them in the senior classes. So their mental health has taken a beating, and
Right.
that needs to be addressed along with the physical
Absolutely.
needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm glad that you brought in this two issues, especially the midday meal, that the children are not getting their nutritious food that they were entitled to. And of course, the mental health. There is a separate segment that I've kept that we will be talking about the mental health concerns of the children. But then quickly, a quick, few words from Rusivian, Dr. Rusivian Shamkyang. Glad that you're here also. Tell us how has your experience been so far regarding this COVID-19 situation that we are in since last year?
Thank you so much, Dr. Moshmi. It's so nice to see you again. And good evening to all the panelists, my co-panelists, and to everyone who are watching this program. And I would like to thank the NRHM also for giving me the opportunity to talk and discuss what's going on during this pandemic, especially related to educational sector. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when we look at this entire 1.5 year, not only that the education scenario has brought about issues like digital divide, but we have seen also that there is uh, economic divide, social divide, urban and rural divide. And these has harmed not only the students, but also the teaching community. Now the administrators, they have their own plates to fill because they are also like our principal used to say, this is a transition period and it's moving very fast. From classroom learning, suddenly we are jumping to the online teaching, and most of the things that we require to do, we are unable to cater to that. So moreover, the students who are from a lower economic background, they are facing difficulties because the parents, they could not, support them with the best technology, or uh, even even teachers also in the rural areas. We have seen plenty of them. Now the list will go on, but I think throughout the discussions we can bring out the
Right.
challenges as well as the solution. Thank
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. Thank you to each one of you for giving us your opening comments. Wonderful. I mean, I can already see, towards which direction this discussion will be moving. So many important points you all have already raised, and as we go and progress in this discussion, we will be addressing those in a little bit more detail. But right now, as we have just finished with the first part, that is your opening comments, I think we need to go for a very quick, short break, and there is an ad break, commercial break, and some valuable messages will be shown to all our back to each one of you once again. So viewers there watching this program, don't go anywhere. We are just warming ourselves now with the opening comments. We will be further on to taking up this discussion. Just stay with us and we will be right back. Welcome back, dear viewers, and all of our panelists. Also, wonderful, add there the wonderful message there that really speaks about how we should create that space for children, and that children shouldn't be in front of laptops, mobile phones all the time. Just because the teaching is online, but that at the same breath, I would also like to tell all our viewers that there is a wonderful app, that the government of Meghalaya has brought out, which is called the Behavioral Change App. Yes, the behavioral change app brought out by the government of Meghalaya. It is in three languages, in fact, Khasi, Garo, and English. And well, it gives you a whole gamut of information, especially about the number of beds available. You can get information about testing centers, also the protocols, and various other vaccination centers. Also, you'll get a whole lot of information there. So I think it's a good app, and y'all can download it in your in your phones and keep it there, so that you can download it from Google Play Store, as well as on the other store also, like so the App Store. Yes, the App Store as well as the Google's Play Store. That's from where you can download this behavioral change app, and you'll find a whole lot of information there. All right, so welcome back once again to all our viewers there to this very interesting topic that we have taken up, and that is education and challenges and solutions during COVID-19. As we have already heard the opening comments from our very esteemed panelists that we have in this program today, most of them have spoken about the challenges. Yes, the challenges are very many. I mean, Rusivian has spoken about the divide that has come forward, the divide that is there, the divide not only between the, the rural and the urban, but technologically also. I mean, not all children, the economic divide too. Then again, some of our other panelists have mentioned about the other problems, connectivity problem, electricity problem, etc., and how the children are missing out, not being there in the classroom. So I again come back to each one of you, and I would like to start with Brother Solomon here, because brother, you are from a school, I mean, heading a school which is buzzing with children and their activities, I'm sure you're missing those days, isn't it? Suddenly the noise is gone. I mean, and now that noise, we are longing for that. We are looking for those children, but they are not there. They're in their home, of course, and teaching has gone online. Tell us some of the challenges that you personally have experienced over these several months.
Okay. Yeah, definitely I'm missing the kids. They are there, and that's why our schools are there for them.
Exactly.
So what, like, one of the things that I find, I mean, there are many problems surfacing, but one of the things I find is the social, interpersonal interactions between children. I mean, because of this situation, pandemic, they are in social isolation. They are in the lockdown mode. They just have their families. And you can imagine, if the families are dysfunctional, where does a child go to? Where does he go? Who does he go to? Who does he reach out to? In the classroom, the dynamics is amazing. The children, they learn from each other. In fact, I believe they learn more from each other than the teacher. I mean, the teachers are there, but it's so much more. It's a play. It's a fight on the field. It's resolving conflicts. It's understanding each other. It's sharing the tiffin. It's taking the child to the sick room. There is so much of dynamics, so much of growth, so much of emotional growth. And the guy loses something in a competition, and how does the guy lift him up and say, it's okay, you can try next time. This is something that's missing, and you cannot replace it. That's why I feel terrible for the children. I mean, they are just I believe the mental, somebody commented, I think Tyrone mentioned about the mental hygiene, mental health.
Yeah.
We don't realize the effect it can have in the coming 5, 6, 10 years. So I just feel that children are really losing out, and we are helpless. Actually, we are helpless. And this is where I also feel I compare this situation. No, I like to use an analogy, um, or an imagery rather, of a stool. If you have a three-legged stool, the child is sitting on top. He occupies the seat of learning, and then you have the one leg are the parents, one leg the teachers, one leg the management. If the three legs of the stool don't work together in a spirit of empathy, I think it's going to be more difficult for the children. I end that.
Right, right. Very true. Very true. Because we need to understand from the perspective of the children, of the students, because they were not used to it. They were used to a buzzing classroom. They were used to sharing tiffin and being in the playground, as you mentioned. All that has gone, and and some of the younger lot. How much can you explain to them? How much do they understand? And they are literally growing up. 2 years almost has gone, and they have grown up now, and they're still not sure what actually is going on. Let me just bring in Professor Streamlet Dakar again. Ma'am, Nehru has been conducting these open book examinations, and results also have been declared. But then there are a lot of challenges in that too. Tell us some of your experiences, from the university level, because we are now talking of higher learning and a little bit more grown up students, but they also have a whole lot of problems. And our students are not only from Meghalaya, they are from the entire Northeast. And entire Northeast also may not have the good connectivity. So tell us some of the issues that you have personally faced being in the university and being a university teacher.
Yeah, well, Dr. Moshmi, that is a very pertinent question. Being a university teacher, we have faced a lot of problem because when we talk of the examination, um, whether it's odd semester or even semester, whether at UG level or at PG level, we have been directed that, semester exams will start from such and such date, and it will be through online mode. But then, the massive problems that the students faced uh, is the connectivity. We had already said and mentioned from other panelists also, we have heard about this. And what I find myself as a teacher, we have provided them, suppose now if exams will start at 10th, so we have provided them, the questions, let's say half an hour or 15 minutes or 20 minutes before the time scheduled. But then, even after 1 hour, students will text you personally, ma'am or sir, we haven't get the question to. We don't have internet connection, and we could not upload the question, and so on and so forth. These are the problems that we faced. And after we have given them the time to submit, let's say 2 hours, a stretch of time for them to submit. Sometimes students will not submit up to next day also. They have their own reason. Some of them may be genuine reasons that they don't have internet connection, especially at the corner most part of our northeast region. But then there may be also not genuine problem. Students did not study. Maybe students they did not understand. They want to get through the exams, but then they have to, to have, even if they use open book, we have to search from which, chapter is this question and so on and so forth. So I find that in the university or at the college level, these kind of problems are facing not only by the students but also by the teachers. And when we evaluate them, mind you, when we evaluate the papers, you will not be able to identify the genuine deserving students because it's all open books. And
Right.
so, the marking will be, a difference of 2 or 3 marks. And suppose now, if we have to give them offline exams and if we have to test the self-evaluation, I used to ask them, suppose if you have to self-evaluate yourself, how much will you get? No, these students will, some of them, they are not very, very, serious per se, because I don't say that all of them, but some of them.
Right, right. So what you're saying is that, some, in this process, what is happening, the good students, the meritorious students, the deserving students are actually missing out because the marking is almost similar, right? So
Yeah.
I come to Dr. Glenn. Dr. Glenn, what is happening to the learning, to quality learning in this online mode? Do you think that has affected big time? Because, as ma'am Streamlet has also said, that it is all online and open book kind of examination where the students are opening their book, finding their answers and writing it down. So do you think, the quality of learning is being affected big time? The knowledge, the knowledge of a particular topic or a subject, that has gone a big, big hit because of this situation that we are in.
Yes, Dr. Maushmi, I think that the quality of learning has definitely suffered. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
However, when we look at the bigger picture, okay, students really have many more issues that they are more concerned with, okay, at the moment, okay, than only the quality of learning. Okay? And I'll come back to this, but I want to say a little bit more about mental health, which Dr. Solomon also already talked a little bit about. Okay, so we did a survey of all of our students, and you can see that there's a report here. Okay,
Right.
and when we contacted the students with a questionnaire, only about half of them answered. The rest of them had to be contacted by the teachers and their mentors to find out really what's going on. And we found out that all students are having mental stress. Okay? One factor that was common to all of them was academic stress. In fact, 25% of them said, we feel stress every day. Okay?
Okay.
And the stress that I feel is not only just the quality of the learning that I'm having, but much, much more than that. In fact, the main stressors that they talked to us about was, will I finish my degree? Will I get a job? My family has economic problems. I've got to help out at the home. These are some of the things that students are really worrying about. In fact, we found that about 10% of them were expressing suicidal thoughts. And of course, we helped all of these students. We have two full-time counselors. So the quality of education, while that has suffered, students really want other things to be sorted out first. But anyway, coming to the quality of education, we have found that about 10 to 12% of students are really behind. Okay? And though they had problems such as internet connectivity and electrical problems, okay, they were not able to keep up because they couldn't get used to the idea of doing tests online, to submitting their assignments online, to not being able to get their questions answered directly from the teacher. Somehow this whole technical disconnect, okay, this whole disconnect from the teacher and from the campus really affected the students. And I
Right, right.
think that once we get to a blended learning, and of course I'm sure we'll talk about that a little later, where they have a balance of self-learning and campus learning, then only will the quality of learning really pick up or become even better. I think there's a bright side to this, but perhaps we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, yes, we certainly will be talking about the blended mode of education because that is all we are headed for, I suppose, right? I mean, this has come out very, very strongly that education, the very, very typical kind of education that we had, a classroom mode of education will not always be there. We have to have the blended mode of education. I bring in Sir Monatosh once again. Sir, you were talking about certain students also experiencing anxiety because they had gone for jobs and they had to face some problems. Tell us a little bit on that front, because many students have passed out their sixth semester and they are now ready to get some jobs. But have they faced any problems, wherever they went to apply for a job? What was the scenario there now? Because they have the degree now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Maushami. Yes, I did get those feedbacks from students as well as their parents and some of the mentors in the college in the form of teachers. That there are students who had applied for jobs and they were called for interview, but then they had to sign something called a a section where they had to mention whether the exams were proctored. They could not answer these because the exams were not proctored here under NEHU. So as a result, they were refused. They said that if anyone has come here with a degree of an online exam done and which was not proctored, they will not be considered for the interview even, let alone selection. Same thing was reported from a student of a particular science department, a very bright student. Only the last two semesters he had sat for online exams. He has got very high marks, very high percentage. He applied to a college in Singapore, and he was selected on the basis of his mark sheets. But again, the same question came up, and his credentials were questioned, and he was told, "Sorry, we cannot consider you unless you produce a certificate saying that your exam was proctored." What Ma'am Strimlett has mentioned about the dangers lurking inside this sort of exams that are happening. I can tell you the students who struggle to get a 45% till their fifth semester suddenly came up with a percentage close to 90%, or even 90+% in their last semester, and some of them even managing a first class. Some departments are saying that we have got 100% first class with 100% students scoring 80% and above, which is unheard of in my 37 years of teaching in St. Edmund's College. We had wonderful results, but 100% students first class, 100% students above 80%. Sorry, so there is something wrong here. We have tried so many different other things, but somehow this idea of an exam which is online, so to say, is not doing any good to anyone. That's my very, very personal view. One more thing before I wind up. One more thing I want to mention here. We have just recently started our science practical classes, in campus science practical classes, because we believe that we cannot have practical classes online. So I could see the first couple of days the attendance was around 50 to 60%. The next 2 days it rose to almost 85 to 90%, which shows that students are ready to come. And the enthusiasm, the excitement was palpable in the campus. We could feel that. So, considering all the restrictions, all the protocols that are to be followed, I feel there is no substitute, even though this could be the future of education, this online virtual mode and all that. But I personally believe that there is no substitute to in-campus learning, teaching learning.
Absolutely, because you need to have that competition. If we are killing the spirit of competition, I think right now that spirit is dying slowly, because students know that they have their notes ready before them, and we have even received answers where normally NEHU has to have an answer of 5 at least, detailed answer in details, and all 5 answers are of different handwritings. So we have to correct those kinds of scripts too. So we are wondering what is going on, who helped them write those, was it written even before? Because the students know which kind of questions will come. Who is writing? So really, it is very concerning, this kind. Mr. Tyrone, let me come back to you. Tell us once again, how are you coping from Sherwood School? What is any kind of innovative methods that you are applying really for this online teaching?
We have a tie-up with Next Education, that is a Hyderabad-based education company, and all our lessons are taught through their app. And the app has got all the information, whether it's a map, whether it's a diagram, okay, and it is routed through the class to the subject teacher, who then teaches the children, just like you would teach in a classroom, a physical classroom. Now it is at home, but we are using the app. So the children are used to that method because we had it in the classroom. We have this the projector in each room, and so now all the information that's there, it's being routed through the subject teacher, and that is how our children are learning. Of course, it is no substitute for offline classroom. So when we did start resume classes on the 1st of September, we had a very healthy attendance, with the exception of a few children who stayed away because of the fear of COVID. But gradually, they've all come back. And that's the good thing about it. Class 6 upwards is having class. KG to 5 is still having online classes. And we are using the NLP app for them. Now,
Right. Okay.
because of the
Okay.
NLP app, some learning is taking place. It's not the best, but it's the second best.
Right, right.
Yes.
Okay. I quickly come into Rusivian. You are pretty silent there, Rusivian. Tell us, because you are dealing with, you are yourself a young scholar, you're a young teacher, and I'm sure in your everyday, dealings with these young students, you were doing it all these days, and now suddenly you're not being able to do. What do you have to say really about this kind of examination that we are having? Because what Ma'am Streamlet said about this online open book examination, and teach students not being able to upload their answer scripts. These are some of the problems I'm sure you as a teacher from Synod College also have faced, isn't it? From the college level as well.
Yes, definitely, Moshmi, because students, they are writing exams now in groups. They don't write alone anymore. Of course, some there will be, but they will start writing in groups, and then their friends will help them. And in the process, sometimes when they submitted the scripts, one script of another student is being stapled along with the script of another one. And then what happened is, instead of sending the scripts, the examination scripts, they send the assignments, the internal tests, like that. So these things, I think because it all came as a sudden process for the students, they cannot digest whatever happened. It makes them, anxiety problem is there. They want to finish. They are scared. Maybe their friends have finished uploading, but they are not. But some face real difficulty in internet connectivity.
Right, right,
And
right.
we
So
cannot
as I said, that competition level is being killed slowly, because I
yeah.
believe, there should be some amount of competitiveness among students, because then only you will excel also. But then so many situations, so many problems, each one of you have mentioned. Let us bring in the mental health issue also, because we need to look at it from the student's perspective also. Of course, as teachers, as educators, as administrators, we understand the challenges. But what about the situation from the student's perspective? And that mental health is a serious challenge, is a serious problem that needs to be addressed, because the student is so used to their friends and their, going out together, being in a group, etc. All that has gone missing. Brother Solomon, tell us about this issue of, how serious do you think, and what more should be done? How much stress should be now given to this mental health issue? You have raised it. Would you like to add a little bit more? What more should be done? I mean, how do we open up this channel of communication so that the children open up their concerns? Because I have had students who come to me and they cry, saying that they are so much more at home now, that their parents are fighting at home. They are quarreling at home because, both mother and father are now more at home. And they said, we feel so helpless, ma'am. Crying students. I mean, these are other aspects of it. Tell us a little bit about the mental health issue also, brother.
Go back to, we have a social justice group, and two teachers conducted classes specifically on mental hygiene, mental health.
Right.
And it is a very good program, and right through from class 5 to class 10, every class we went into. And what was noticeable was the number of kids who said, I'm bored, I'm restless, I'm stressed out, I don't know what to do. And as you went up higher, the higher classes, the kids were very listless, uncertain of the future. And the chat box was full. Kids were just typing, So it's not just, you get the impression that, what can we do? We're just looking at these problems coming up, and literally the children were dying to share what's going on inside. I feel at least the least we could do is to have some kind of a session with the children. And a number of them asked me this: can we have just a chat among ourselves?
Okay.
Apart from just classes, can the teachers give us a chance to talk where we can share and just talk, except apart from the studies, just what's happening in themselves. So
Right.
I feel we need to give a forum like that to the children where they can express and talk. No studies, no talking shop, just express. A simple thing like, so casually children say,
Maybe
my
more
grandfather.
online programs also, like online cultural activities, some kind of, singing, or,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes,
venting
yes.
out.
Yeah. Yes. I just for your just to butt in there, I realize for the bigger children also, the play is such an important thing. So I've invited the children. You come to the school, if it's okay with you, tell your parents and come to school and use the playground, and play. Come and play. Anyway, so this is just
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think many organizations are also organizing these online art, painting, so many competition also. That also helps unburden the child, the children who don't just think about their syllabus, because our education system is so pro-syllabus that we are also concerned about finishing the syllabus, right? I mean, the stress is the stress is on the teachers too. They are also stressed that they need to finish, and we are
very
till now, of course, we are not sure if the syllabus would be truncated for this year also. We are not too sure of this. I hope it does, though, because a significant part of the students have still continued their learning this year at home as well, right? Okay, let me just, before I come back to you, let me also tell all our viewers who are watching this program that there is a frame that you can use actually for your photograph in support of the vaccination, and that is called the National Health Mission NHM campaign. And for that, of course, yes, that's a lovely frame you can put, and you can write, "I got my COVID-19 vaccine." Be proud of the fact that you are vaccinated, and show support to the cause of vaccination. I think we have all understood this fact that vaccination is the only cure that is available for us up to this moment. And we need to be all vaccinated. All right, now, we just have around 10 more minutes maybe to wrap up this discussion that we are having so far. So what is the way out? What is it that we have not done, or what can be done in a different manner? I mean, we have spoken about the problems, we have spoken about the challenges. There are so many. Yet, everybody's trying their hard. The teachers are trying their hard. The administrators, the principals, everybody's trying hard. And the children hoping their best. The parents, not to forget the parents. I mean, so much of learning is happening at home along with the help of the parents too. I mean, the parents are now coping with their, teaching the children lots of homeworks, as well as doing a job also, and job maybe in an office, in the field, etc., because they have to earn their livelihood. So tell us now, from each one of you, I come to you, Dr. Glenn. So what is the way out? What is the solution really that we can look ahead and do things a little differently, so that this learning process, the online, the blended mode, whichever ones we are trying to cope up with, would be a little exciting, would be not so boring, and would be different?
Let me discuss this on two levels. Okay? I firmly believe that both the academic welfare and the psychological well-being of our students are equally important. Okay? And when we asked our students, how are you coping, or how can we help you cope? What is the solution for mental well-being? Okay, we got some interesting answers. And some of the students said, I do gardening, I do cooking, baking. I'm learning how to play the guitar and the piano. I do some do-it-yourself arts and crafts. I play games, or I watch videos. Okay, a few said I sleep more than usual. Okay, and 0.4% of our respondents said, I am taking alcohol or drugs to make me feel better. Okay? But a large portion of our students said, I put my trust in God and I pray. So we are finding that students are finding their own coping mechanisms, they're finding their own solutions. Okay? Now, on the other level, what's our responsibility as educational administrators and institutional leaders? Okay? I think that even when COVID becomes more restricted and more limited in its scope, and this will probably up and down, and I think that pandemics will also come in the future, we really have to plan our learning to follow the blended model. Okay, for me there's a simple definition of what is blended learning. It means that we need to have a better balance of self learning and teacher learning. Okay, just because it's online doesn't mean that it's self-learning, because many of our teachers, they just lecture in the online modes. That's same as being in a classroom. Okay? Now, of course, I agree with the others that campus learning is also important because social mixing takes place, citizenship learning takes place. Okay? But I strongly believe that blended learning should take us away from this Indian mindset of rote and spoon feeding teaching, especially in secondary and higher education. Students need to take more responsibility for their learning. Finishing the syllabus is not so important, okay? But people may object to what I'm saying because this is actually an ideological question. People want to finish the syllabus because they have to do competitive examinations. But are we going to be obsessed with finishing the syllabus, or do we want critical thinkers and lifelong learners? I think that this will be more beneficial to the individual and to the country. Okay? And actually, Maushmi, I think that perhaps we should have maybe another session, or we could have had on this panel itself, a couple of students who can tell us, what their views on COVID and education is.
Right. Right. Okay. Yes, I think that would be a wonderful way also to listen to the other view. Also, it is so important, and then we will be understanding, life during COVID from their side, their stories. I'm sure they have so much to share with us. So I just bring in Professor Streamlit once again. So, ma'am, what is the way out? I mean, how do we innovate ourselves a little bit more differently? And, by all the stakeholders to make this blended mode of education, as Dr. Glenn has said, because that is how it's going to be like. How do we make it more interesting? And what is it that we have not done already that should be done?
Well, when we talk of blended mode of teaching and learning, yeah, we have different methods of teaching, and the learners can learn, the students can learn also from our methods, from our, techniques. And, what I feel that is lacking these days is the eye contact between the teacher and the students. Uh, so therefore, when we can use, one method which we call the flip method, or any other method where we can talk live to the students and make it in a form of, a group discussion type or an interaction type. Like you'll be able to understand, you'll be able to assess the students' understanding, and you will also find that students will be more attentive. They will not just open the devices and put the video mode off and put the audio mode off. And you'll never know that they are present there or not. But then when you do live, so that students will be present at the same time, and the teacher is delivering her teaching or his teaching face to face. They'll be able also to interact with the teacher, ask questions to the teacher, things that they are doubtful. These kind of things that we are able to help. Just to finish the syllabi, as he had already mentioned, will reach nowhere. Because if we have to have a response from the teacher side as well, because through different authorities of the institution, they may be provided that the syllabus is reduced. But then at the same time, why should we rush only to the syllabus when
Right.
students did not learn anything? Even though we completed the syllabi, but then the students did not learn anything. So what I want to say is that art teaching should be motivated, though it is in virtual mode.
Hmm.
Students should be able to contact their own teacher, should be able to ask the doubts, since they are not able to meet, in the online, in the offline mode.
Right.
Yeah. So I would
Okay.
say that let us use as teachers the different methods of teachings so that students will be feeling lively. Students will be feeling that they are important also,
Hmm.
and the questions that they ask also will be answered by the teachers.
Hmm. Okay, all right. Let me just bring in also Professor Monatosh. Sir, what is the positives, therefore, that we have? I mean, we are talking about challenges, we are talking about problems, yet I'm sure that there are some positives also that has come out, right? Can you just identify some of them and, so that we can wind up actually on a positive note? So, what are some of the positives that has also come out from this online mode of education, you feel?
And the positives have already been mentioned by Dr. Glenn and Brother Soli to some
Hmm.
extent. For me, the biggest positive here is that the preparedness of the teachers and students to somehow find a space for themselves in virtual mode. And
Hmm.
the school administrators, college administrators, they've created the space for the students and the teachers to realize that this is the reality. As Dr. Glenn has very rightly said, that the future is blended mode of education, and
Hmm.
teachers will not shy away from helping the students online from here on. It is no longer going to be going to be a stress factor anymore. This is the biggest positive that has come along, and students know how to depend on themselves rather than as rote teaching or spoon feeding that Dr. Lan has mentioned. They realize that this is not reality. Reality is with us, and we are equipped to face the possibilities, whatever it is, in future.
Hmm.
Thank
Hmm.
you. This is the positive for me.
Okay, all right. Anybody else would like to share? Which are some of the positives that has come out? You feel from this online mode of education too? Maybe our senior teachers have learned, right? I mean, that is also very nice to see that they are not really some very senior teachers can now do so much online, right? So that you feel, what about Mr. Tyrone? Anything else you would like to add, like from your school, maybe some experience?
Well, there is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Ebby from
Hmm.
England,
Hmm.
and he's in touch with me, and he runs
Hmm.
an educational company, and he was asking me what are your problems. So I said one of the biggest issues, which has been rightly mentioned by everyone, is
Hmm.
connectivity, and he's come up with an idea which he's using in other parts of India, especially in Maharashtra. He's supplying a microchip, and this microchip, according to him, can can replace the internet for a while. So if the signal is too weak, the microchip kicks in, and the children are able to learn. When I told him that, I said, but then children can't come to school. That means everyone needs a microchip at home. That's it. So I said, you give us a proper price and let's see what it
Right. I think,
works out.
yeah.
So and let's see whether it will be feasible here in Meghalaya. Yes, Dr.
Okay.
Ebi is from eSchool/UK. So he's showing a little interest in Meghalaya.
Okay.
Of course, he's
That's
working. He's
wonderful.
already set up a base in Maharashtra. I know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So
And
this
Sir
microchip seems to be
Mahutosh,
the
you wanted to
answer
add something?
to
Mm-hmm.
get connected.
Yeah, you're breaking up slightly, Mr. Tyrone, you're breaking up a bit, so we cannot hear you very clearly. Never mind, that's the problem of connectivity. So I can well imagine what the students go through when they are attending online classes. I mean, I have seen it for myself, they are sticking out their phone out of their window, out of their door, trying to get the best network. And yet they're trying so hard to, yes, Professor
Yeah,
Monatosh, yes.
no, I just wanted to add one more term actually. That
Hmm.
is empowerment. I
Hmm.
always felt that there is some kind of an unsaid divide. One of my colleagues here in the panel had mentioned this divide
Hmm.
initially. I think this is a young professor from Synod College. Uh, there is a divide in the classroom between the quick learners and the slow learners. Now, this
Hmm.
online classes, the virtual mode of classes, has empowered students, so-called slow students, into understanding facts better. So that is a big, big positive. I think that divide is gone now.
Hmm.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to put in.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And so, as we are almost winding up, I can see some comments, but not all of them actually. I'm being able to see them very well. That's what I was trying to get these comments actually. And I thought if I could read out a few, because we have received a number of comments, I wish I could actually see them. Right. But then, without being able to see the name, there is one comment that has come saying, before this pandemic, we were asked to keep our child to stay away from cell phone, and during this period we are helpless but to give them phones. This is a dichotomy, right? I mean, all these days we're preventing, it's in good humor also, I suppose. We were preventing the children not to carry their phones and not to use the phones, and today the children are all but dependent on their phone, right? On their phone. Okay, we will try to take out read out some more comments if possible. But then, as we are almost winding up this discussion, what will be your closing comments? How positive you are. I begin with Professor Sir Glenn, Dr. Glenn. How positive you are in the coming days? When you look at the overall scenario. Like, do you think our this entire education system that we are it has actually turned out to be for the good, for the better, or do you think that it is not so good after all?
Dr. Maushami, I think that India being a land of great diversity, okay, we
Mm-hmm.
can't generalize whether everyone will be equally benefited, because I
Yeah.
think that there are going to be populations that are going to be marginalized for quite some time to come. Okay, I do
Mm.
believe that we should be optimistic, because especially for poor children in rural areas, if the government comes up with better schemes for cheaper internet and for cheaper devices and schemes
Mm-hmm.
to help children with this, that will definitely be a very good step forward.
Right.
Overall, I feel that the educational system will benefit from the drawbacks that we have seen so far from the pandemic, because we will learn from this. Okay,
Right.
I think
Absolutely.
some of the lessons that we would learn as far as educators, I think that we have to change the
Mm.
way that we look at education from the student's point of view. The
Mm.
students need to learn to take more responsibility. And I have seen that in this online, we're finding that students are realizing that they can't depend on the institution or the teacher to do
Mm-hmm.
everything for them. So that's a very good positive. The other thing that
Right.
we need to look at is, apart from our teaching methods, is also our
Mm.
examination methods. From the inception of our university, we've never had examinations. We have continuous formative learning. So we've
Mm-hmm.
really not had problems with, copying during the exam or having end semester summative exams. So these are some of the things that I think that if we absorb as educators, that this will really add to the optimism that we can have for the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Quickly, I'll just take in one of the, because I think a number of our participants are there. The viewers who are watching, and we are so glad, in fact, that they are, sending us messages and they are participating. It's very nice to have you, dear viewers, with us, and we hope that you've enjoyed this discussion so far. Quickly, I would just like to read out one of the, somebody has sent here saying, "High time we have to live with it." That is COVID. It's high time we live with COVID and learn how to stay safe with it. Schools should be open now. Keeping closed is not a solution. students are suffering with eyesight problem also, right? Okay, yeah, that is another thing. People are, students are having eyesight problem also. Yes, I mean, a lot of health issues are also coming, because they are so cooped up in their rooms, not being able to go outside, no social interaction. Yes, a lot of mental and physical problems are there that the children are also facing. Quickly, Brother Solomon, a quick closing comment from you also. How optimistic are you for the days ahead?
Definitely optimistic. And one of the positives I feel I need to underline is the relationship between the teachers, parents, and students is much more closer. The
Mhm.
parents understand what the teachers go through, and the teachers understand what the parents go through. And so I feel there's a nice bonding that has come out as a positive.
Right. Okay. Yes. Because parents are being able to understand their children better. Because all these days maybe they couldn't spend that much amount of time. And yes, the bond has grown definitely. Dr. Streamlet, your closing comments, please, before we wrap up.
Oh, yes, I quite agree with my co-panelist here, Dr. Glenn and Brother Solomon, because, even though we have faced a lot of challenges, but at the same time, students are made themselves responsible for their own career, responsible for their own self empowerment. And because of this pandemic, they are able to struggle and to put their effort that they should be able to compete with any other student because
Right.
they need to help themselves. They
Right.
cannot depend on the parents because some parents they may be illiterate. Some parents may not be able to help them, but then at the same time, when they have also educated parents, they are able to do much better than we expect during this pandemic.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of our panelists had also mentioned that children are now giving vent to many of their skills. They're learning on their own so many things. I think that is also a positive. They're taking interest in so many other activities that they couldn't maybe have time enough before, but now they're doing that. Professor Manutosh, quick closing comments from you as well.
If you want a real quick one, I would say that people who were hesitant, a little fastidious, little reluctant about using the technology, are
Mhm.
now ready to embrace technology with both arms. So that's the biggest positive.
Right, right. And Mr. Tyrone, anything, word of wisdom and word of some inspiration maybe you would like to share to all the students who are watching this program right now? Perk them up a little bit, saying that it's okay, we're going through it together and we'll
I,
be over soon.
I, I think the topic is so correct. It's a challenge, and there are solutions.
Right.
And definitely, we will see a rainbow very quickly. And as Dr. Glenn rightly said, it will be blended learning. The future will be
Mm,
blended learning. And the
mm.
rainbow is just around the corner. Thank you and
Yeah.
good night.
Right, right. And we have to hold on together because we are all in it together. Dr. Rusivian, quickly, we are all in it together and we need to support our students there. Tell them just hold on a little bit more. We will be out of it very soon.
Yeah, definitely. The students, they are hanging on as for now, and we as teachers also, we are trying to help them as much as we can. And not
Absolutely.
only the teachers, the parents are involved. They are a
Mm-hmm.
little bit responsible for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And though many of them complains of huge assignments given by the schools, and you know, it's a huge task for them. But
Mm-hmm.
eventually, if we take this pandemic as an opportunity to also learn, parents also learn at the same time, and students also, and things that it can be best to suggest that if the government can come out with some kind of a report, a survey, how many students can afford to use technology, how many of them they have a lack of internet connectivity, so on and so forth, and perhaps we can attend to these problems with more practical solutions rather
Right.
than talking about it again and again. So
Right.
what I see are
Really.
very positive things in the future.
Mm.
We have to
Mm.
be we have to work. We cannot stop educating the students. Of course,
Right.
talking about quality education and learning is a different thing. Maybe we can have another panel discussion. But as for now, this is indeed a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely wonderful, because indeed we have to live with it. Indeed, we have to carry on life with it, as long as COVID-19 is still there, as long as COVID-19 is still there with us, we have to continue living with it. But then I hope that soon we'll be out of it and our children will be back in their classrooms, back in the campuses, because we really miss them so very much. And we as educators, as teachers, we are there to help each one of them, and I think we all need to play a role, all the stakeholders, including the government, the private agencies. I hope our network improves, the connectivity improves, and as we will sail through it together. And as our panelists said, there's always a silver lining behind every cloud. So we hope the rainbow will come out bright and shining very soon again, and we will overcome this together. Thank you so much, each one of you, for giving us your most valuable time. Dr. Glenn Karkungor, thank you so much, sir, for coming for this program and giving us such valuable inputs. I also would like to thank Professor Screamland Dakar, ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you, with us once again also in this program. Not to forget Professor Monotosh Chakraborty. Thank you also for
Thank you, Moshe.
for giving us the opportunity to hear you so well. And Brother Solomon, wonderful to have you too in this program. I'm sure that your students have enjoyed watching you as much, and they must have missed you. And now that they have heard you again, I'm sure they're happy and they are feeling a little bit better. And not to forget Mr. Tyrone DeBras, thank you so much for coming and representing the Garo Hills and telling us also the scenario there. And not to forget Dr. Rusivian Champion from Synod College, Shillong. Thank you so much. Each and every of our panelists, it was a pleasure to have you with us. And I'm sure that all our viewers too have enjoyed watching this discussion. And hopefully on another day or another occasion, we will be together again, and let us look ahead with positivity also. And to those of you who have been watching this program online, dear listeners and viewers, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you. On behalf of National Health Mission, Government of Meghalaya, I once again thank you for being a part of this program. Until next time, do take care, look after yourself, and stay safe. Good night to all.
Hey Kongdeng, where to? Seems like somewhere special.
Yes, it's special. I am very proud to be a part of India's largest vaccination drive.
Are you not worried?
Why will I be? Instead, I should be worried if I'm not vaccinated.
But people are saying so many things.
People will always have something to say.
Will it really protect me from COVID?
Vaccination doesn't mean you are 100% COVID proof, but your immune system will be strong enough to fight even if you contract COVID-19 and it is not life-threatening.
I heard it has severe side effects.
There may be mild side effects like fever or chills or maybe headache, but that's normal. It will wear off on its own.
But is it really safe?
Of course it is absolutely safe and backed up by medical professionals. Doctors, engineers, politicians and many more are chosen from all sections of the society to be vaccinated.
Yes, you are right. I will also get vaccinated immediately.
Don't waste your time anymore listening to fake news and gossip. Take a decision to get vaccinated with confidence.
National Health Mission, Government of Meghalaya.
Bamun! Hey Bamun! Where are you? You gotta be careful.
Why are you shouting?
Aren't we supposed to go for COVID-19 vaccination today?
Oh, just a sec. I will get ready.
Stop! You're not ready as yet.
Now, what happened?
As per the government's new safety measures, you should be wearing a double mask in order to fight against the new variant of COVID-19.
Double mask?
Yes, a double mask. a surgical mask, and a cloth mask on top of it.
Okay, let me get one quickly. Okay, now I'm all set to fight back this COVID-19.
That's right, my warrior friend. Let's reclaim our lives. And remember, you don't need to wear a double mask if you're wearing an N95 mask.
National Health Mission, Government of Meghalaya.